Hello everyone, just doing a quick video. I was just wondering, when is it worth killing a character in a story, in fiction? And the reason I was kind of wondering, like, why I thought of that is because DC Comics killed Alfred Pennyworth in the Batman comic books a while back. And it seems like they brought him back finally. And I was thinking, what a pointless death that was. No disrespect to the writer Tom King, but I just thought, and apparently editorial had something to do with it as well. But I just thought like it was such a waste of time to kill Alfred because when you're gonna kill a character, you have to wonder. Killing the character has to bring you more than it takes away. So if you're gonna kill a character and you're taking that character away from future stories, the death of the character has to bring something else in return of equal or greater value. And killing Alfred Pennyworth was a waste of time. It was a bad move, in my opinion, because as soon as Alfred died, all the writers were kind of like, you could see that something was missing, some essential aspect of the Batman mythos, not just because of our expectations of Alfred being there, but just the role that he plays, the balancing factor for humanizing Batman, that it gives Batman someone to talk to in stories where Robin isn't there, which, as much as I love Robin as a character, no matter which one, not every story needs Robin being there. And just the kind of like the father figure who can talk to Batman from an angle where, like everyone in the Bat family turns to Batman as the leader, but Alfred is the one where, yes, Bruce is the leader, but Alfred is the one who can talk to him in a way that no one else can in the Bat family, which again humanizes Batman and makes those stories more interesting. And Batman has conversations with Alfred that are way beyond any conversation he could have with one of his kids, one of the Robins or the Batgirls or Signal or any of them. Um, so the Signal, right? I think that's his name, code name. Anyway, um, so I was just thinking about that. This waste of time, basically. As soon as Alfred was dead, you had Lucius in the comics. Right after, you had Lucius Fox, like basically being Alfred. The role that Alfred was in, like they basically grabbed Lucius Fox and made him Alfred. Now, I don't know if it's because the stories were kind of like written ahead of time and the other writers didn't know that Alfred was gonna die, so they had to do a last minute change in the script, just to not have to redo everything. I don't know. Maybe that could be. We never know what happens behind the scenes, but it's really how it was for a while. Like Lucius Fox was playing the role of Alfred, so it was like, well, you killed Alfred, but right away you have a character playing the same role, which proves how essential having Alfred there is. And then you have writers like Tom Taylor, who, and I think it was wise of Tom Taylor to do that, kept bringing Alfred back in flashbacks because you need Alfred's presence, or he had like um, Dick Grayson inherited money from Alfred, stuff like that. So you can understand how essential Alfred is in those stories. Okay, I've been going on for 4 minutes about Alfred. So taking Alfred away, what do you get? Batman's already moody. Batman's already dealing with loss as a character from his parents dying. You didn't get anything. Like, Alfred is Batman's dad, and Batman already lost his original dad, Thomas Wayne, so you're not adding anything to mythos. You're removing something. And that is unwise. Killing a character in that way is unwise. Now, I'm going to give other examples after of good and bad moment, like examples of killing characters, but to stick to a Batman mythos, a death that should never have been undone, in my opinion, and this is going to be controversial, is Jason Todd. I think he should have stayed dead because this is a different kind of death. Jason Todd, him being dead added something to the Batman mythos that has never been recovered since he came back. And because you inevitably are gonna have him kind of like assume either one of two things. He's either gonna be like the anti-hero of the Batman family, or he's gonna be a villain. So you already have Two Face, who used to be friends with Batman, who became a villain, and so yeah, I guess you could do like the old sidekick who becomes a villain, but just having Jason Todd be dead and kind of be a warning to all Robins and kind of be this like thing that Batman regrets deeply. Um, that was like directly linked to him as Batman, not from when he was a kid, not from Um, it's not like Alfred dying. It actually added a dimension of Batman wondering, okay, what am I doing putting these kids in danger? Stuff like that. So it added a lot of complexity and honesty to the idea of Batman having Robins. And then the comics, of course, argued the case that Robin is needed, and in the context of the DC universe, is a moral, heroic thing to do to have a Robin. Like, okay. Um, in real life, that might be very debatable, but in the context of DC Comics and in a world where kids can beat up adults if they're trained by Batman, like all of that. So, yeah, so in the context of a fantasy world like the DC Comics, they explain why, but it's kind of brave to address it, right? And then, I don't know, Jason Todd is kind of like being more and more accepted to the point where you're like, well, okay, so accepted by the Bat family, so it's like, well, what's the point of him now compared to? And I'm not saying that Jason Todd is not a good character. I'm not saying he hasn't been good stories or that he isn't being used in good ways by writers these days. He is, but I still believe that when he was dead, his presence had way more impact. The Jason Todd outfit in the Batcave was such a powerful image, and artists in the 90s loved to draw it in the background, even if the scene had nothing to do with Batman thinking about Jason Todd. There you would see it there. Artists love to draw that outfit in their background, whether it was in the script or not. And you, as a reader, have this constant reminder: oh yeah, Jason Todd died. Um, as opposed to, oh yeah, Jason Todd is the rebellious son that Batman doesn't fully approve of, or sometimes does, depending on the writer and the month of the year, and what editorial things should be done with Jason. Um, so and you had Tim Drake kind of facing the fact that the Robin before him died, and Dick Grayson thinking like the guy who replaced him died. It was so complex. But to have like an anti-hero Robin, like, I mean, Damian Wayne is basically Jason Todd 2.0. So my point is that in the context of Jason, having him dead added so much to the story, because you could always have like another anti-hero sidekick, but to have this one sidekick who died and remained dead, but you can't do that with the original Robin with Dick Grayson. And I also think it's in bad taste to keep doing that. So with Tim Drake, like, you can't keep doing that either. You don't want Batman comics to be like Game of Thrones either. Um, but to have it that one time that it happened, and have it mean something. So I think that bringing back Jason actually took away something that could have been like what Jason brought by coming back in the long term, even though the initial story under the Red Hood was very impactful. In the long term, because I think comics these days as well are very focused on like the right now. Oh, the next story you can tell. But if you think in the long term, it took away something from the mythos. Um, and I think Zack Snyder tried to replicate it in Batman v Superman when you saw the Robin outfit, but we had no context for that world, so I don't think it was very impactful. I mean, some people might disagree, and yeah, I don't dislike the Zack Snyder movies, but I'm not bashing them. But I always felt like that Robin outfit lacked power and punch because we didn't even know who that Robin was. Was it Dick Grayson? Was it Jason Todd? Like, it's the first time we meet this Batman, and already we're asked to empathize with all of that we don't know in this universe. Anyway, I digress. But yeah, actually, that's I digress big time. No, I mentioned Game of Thrones. In Game of Thrones, when spoilers for the first season of Game of Thrones, when Ned Stark dies, that serves the purpose of letting you know this world is not like the other fantasy worlds we're used to. So once again, the death adds something, and then after Ned Stark dies, like so many, like the domino effect of everything that happens after is so interesting. So um, Ned Stark dying added so much to the story compared to him just like surviving and having been the main character, I guess, for the whole story. And another example of a pointless death is in Death Note. So they kill L, which back when I first read it was a shocker. But then like right after, L is replaced by Nier, and it's like Nier is like this basically this like second version of L. So what's the point? Again, like what's the point of killing the character if what you do right away is replace him with like that gap is felt in this universe, in this world. And when you remove a character and there's a gap that you need to fill right away once more, that's a good indication you should not kill that character. If you remove that character and on the long term, not just the immediate, like a lot of writers I think are very attracted by the immediate story they can tell with that. Like immediately it'll be interesting, but long term will it be interesting to be missing that character? Because you can always tell an Elseworlds story, like a story set in a different what if, a different universe. Like, oh, in this universe, Alfred died, and this is how Batman reacts. But long term, does it really bring something to the mythos, or does it remove it? So I think if you're a writer, you're writing your stories, and you want to consider killing off characters or not. I think one good indication of whether you should or not is if you remove that character, do you have this urge to replace that character with another one right away that's going to fulfill the same role? And if the answer is yes, that's not the character to kill. You need to look for the character you want to kill is the one that you want to remove. And of course, you want to portray that as an important gap for the fictional characters. But in the context of a story, it added to the story. You haven't removed anything that was essential to the fun, satisfaction, themes, or anything else of the story. Like for example, in Death Note, having the quirky detective who looks weird and acts weird and plays either with food or toys or whatever was such a fun visual, what made it so different that after L died, like they basically grabbed L, made him younger, changed his hair color, and instead of eating lots of candies, now he played with toys. So that was near. Uh, so if that's the indication, I think. Like if you need to replace that character right away, just don't kill him off or her or whatever. Just don't kill that character off. It's gonna be a waste of time. You're gonna diminish your story and your product. So look for a character that you can kill who's gonna stay dead, and um, if the character is gonna die, but then that death is not gonna have consequence later on, keep the character around. You might have a better idea for the character later on. I insist, like death is to be used, but always if it brings something to a story. And if killing a character doesn't bring, if you don't know what to do with a character, then maybe you need to consider that character more. When you kill off a character out of laziness or because you don't know what to do with them, like people are gonna notice. Like, oh yeah, the character was underutilized and now the character is dead. Like, like there's no emotional weight to it. So yeah. Anyway, just some random thoughts I was having about the subject matter. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you for watching.